it's time. We are now going to be moving on to my Virgin Mystic Adventures and Virgin New Adventures. Da 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 da! I'm so excited. So starting off my little section of Virgin Missing Adventures and Virgin New Adventures, we have the History Collection reprint of The English Way of Death and Human Nature, which I've already gone over, so I won't go over them again. Goth Opera, the first ever Virgin New Adventure book, no, Virgin Missing Adventures book, which was published at the same time as a Virgin New Adventure called Blood Harvest, but I'll talk about more on that later on. Haven't read this one yet, but I've heard it's absolutely incredible, pretty curious in reading it. Evolution, again, I haven't read this one. Again, I really don't know too much about this Doctor Who book. It's by John Peel, who wrote most of the Target novelisations of the Daleks, of the Dalek stories. But yeah, other than that, I really don't know too much about this book. All I can comment on really is the cover. Don't know whether it's loved, hated, or whatever. Venusian Lullaby, quite a thick one, this one. I think this one is quite a Marmite one. I think you actually have to kind of like the actual writer's style, Paul Leonard's kind of style of writing, to actually kind of appreciate this book or something like that. Again, I really don't know too much about this book, but I'm pretty curious in reading it. The Romance of Crime. Holy shit, I can't recommend this book enough. I really want to review this book badly, so I'm not going to say too much on that book, but fucking hell, that's incredible. That's an incredible bit of writing by Gareth Roberts. The Time of Your Life by Steve Lyons. I really don't know too much about this Virgin Missing Adventure. From reading the blurb, it kind of sounds like sounds like a lot like Vengeance on Valos, which is pretty interesting. It's by Steve Lyons, so I would say it's probably going to be a really good book. Dancing the Code by Paul Leonard. I think this is the first ever Virgin Missing Adventure I purchased. Quite a tatty copy, but this one's quite rare, I think, so I'm happy enough to get in any condition. Really curious about this book actually. I think it's all about the Doctor and Joe have to actually separate, because the Doctor actually builds a machine to actually predict the future, and it foresees that the Brigadier is going to kill the Doctor and Joe, so they actually have to separate or something like that. So that's what the blurb says anyway, so it sounds like a pretty epic Doctor Who book. Invasion of the Cat People. Again, I really don't know too much about this Doctor Who book, but very nice cover on this one. I especially like how the Second Doctor and the and Ben and Polly have been drawn on this book. Very kind of clean illustration, but that's all I can really comment on. Again, the cover, I really don't know too much about this book. Millennial Rights, again another Doctor Who book that I really want to review, but at the same time I'm kind of looking forward to reading this book, reviewing this book. Why? Because this is the first Doctor Who book to legitimately piss me off. I am not joking. Something in this book annoyed me so much that this became the first Doctor Who book to legitimately piss me off. I am so angry at what Craig Hinton actually did towards the end of this book, and pardon my language, but I can't even describe it as a cunt move really. It was so fucking frustrating what happened towards the end of this book. It was but yeah, that's probably good. That's probably a good tease for a review, which I guess I will be doing now. The Man in the Velvet Mask by Daniel O'Mahony. Again, I really don't know too much about this book, but I've heard it's quite a I think I've heard like a Venusian Lullaby, that you've got kind of like the style of writing that Daniel O'Mahony has employed for this book. I have started reading it. I did start reading it, and I got through a couple chapters, but I just couldn't finish the book. It was so... I just found it really boring. The Plotters by Gareth Roberts. I really don't know too much about this book. Actually, I think I've actually heard that it's actually a fantastic Doctor Who book, and I actually have read this book, and I would say it was a fantastic little historical story. I think it's probably my second least favourite Gareth Roberts book. I've read 4 of his works of Doctor Who fiction. The English Way of Death, The Romance of Crime, and Sharda, and this one. And this is his second weakest, but still an absolutely fantastic Doctor Who novel at that. Next up we have the Handbook, the 4th Doctor Years. Just a little random non-fiction thing here, kind of published during the same time of that the Virgin books were actually published in, so yeah, might as well show that off here. Don't know too much about this book, but apparently it's absolutely fantastic. Haven't had a really good proper look at it yet. Okay then, now we're going to be moving on to the Virgin Missing Adventures with Time Ruin Apocalypse, the 3rd and the penultimate book in the quadrilogy of Time Ruin, which opened up the Virgin New Adventures line. I haven't read this one yet. I plan to get on the entire saga before reading that. Really don't know too much about it. Same with the next couple books, Cat's Cradle Warhead and Cat's Cradle Witchmark. Again, I really don't know too much about these books. I don't really know if they're meant to be good or bad. I've actually heard that the Cat's Cradle trilogy is pretty underwhelming, but I'm still pretty curious in reading it, and I will give this trilogy a shot when I actually get the Cat's Cradle Time's Crucible, which is the first in this series. But yeah, Cat's Cradle, Warhead, don't know too much about it. Same with Witchmark. I absolutely love the cover of Witchmark though. Love and War by Paul Cornell. I actually only got this for like 35p off of Amazon, believe it or not. Absolutely incredible bargain. I haven't read this book yet, but I'm really curious in reading it. Quite a thin Doctor Who book, so yeah, that should be an interesting read. The Highest Science, along with Love and War. I did get this for like about only 30p off of Amazon, which is crazy. Haven't read it yet though. Apparently meant to be a fantastic Doctor Who novel. I think it was critically acclaimed by people. So yeah, should be quite an interesting read right there. The Pit, with quite a interesting and bizarre cover with what appears to be Edgar Allan Poe and one of the Avatar people riding a pterodactyl, so on the surface of Mars, but by the looks of it. So yeah, very odd cover, but other than the cover, I really don't know too much about this book. It's apparently meant to be a really bad book actually, so yeah. Next up we have The Seat by Peter Darville Evans. Again, I really don't know too much about this book. Don't know whether it's meant to be good or bad. Haven't read it yet. Lucifer Rising by Andy Lane and Jim Mortimer. This is actually heralded to be one of the greatest Doctor Who novels, if not the greatest Doctor Who novel ever written. I've only read that much of the novel so far, and it actually took me 3 weeks to actually get up to this point here, because I had so much going on in real life at the time, and that was a couple months ago actually, and I have not returned to this book yet to actually finish it off, but I do plan to finish it off sometime soon. Really enjoyed the first 100 odd pages though. Fantastic book so far. Again, another one by Jim Mortimer, Blood Heat. Along with The Highest Science and Love and War, I got this for only 1 penny off of Amazon. A penny. That is just incredible bargain. So yeah, I don't know too much about it. Apparently it's meant to be really good, but I haven't read it yet. White Darkness by David A. McKenty. Again, I really don't know too much about this Doctor Who book, so I really don't know if it's meant to be good or bad. Another one by David A. McKenty, First Frontier. again, I really don't know too much about whether this book is meant to be good or bad or whatnot, but it kind of looks like, judging by the cover, it kind of plays around with the conspiracy theory of Roswell, which is pretty interesting. Another one by Gareth Roberts, Tragedy Day. Again, I haven't read this one yet, but again, this is another one that's critically acclaimed. So yeah, it should be quite an interesting read. So yeah, so that should be an interesting read by Gareth Roberts. Next up we have Blood Harvest by Terrance Dicks, as I mentioned earlier. This was published at the same time as Goth Opera, and what's really weird is that this is a sequel to Goth Opera for the Doctor, but it's a prequel to Goth Opera for us, which is bizarre. But I'm pretty curious about reading it. I've read a little bit of this book so far, but I really did enjoy it, what I've read of it. So yeah, that should be an interesting book to finish off. Another one by Jim Mortimer, Parasite, with a very surreal cover. Very bizarre. Really don't know too much about this Doctor Who book, so yeah, I really don't know too much about it, so should be an interesting read if I do get around to reading it. Infinite Requiem by Daniel Blythe. I showed you this one earlier, but now I'll talk about it because I didn't talk about it earlier. Infinite Requiem by Daniel Blythe. I really don't know too much about this Doctor Who book, so haven't read it yet, so I don't really know if it's meant to be good or bad. Sky Pirates by Dave Stone, with one of my favourite covers of the Virgin New Adventures. Actually, it kind of looks like the Doctor got swallowed by some huge kind of beast, and along with some antiques or something like that, and a giant scorpion. A very bizarre cover, but a very nice looking cover. Pretty curious about reading this book. I think it's actually got illustrations. Yeah, it does. And some of the Virgin New Adventures actually do have illustrations, such as Sky Pirates, Lucifer Rising, and Blood Heat, which I'll quickly show off from Blood Heat. Some really nice artwork there. See that? So yeah. But anyway, Sky Pirates, I really don't know too much about this book. So yeah. Toy Soldiers by Paul Leonard. Again, I really don't know too much about this Doctor Who book. Don't know whether it's loved or hated. But yeah. But yeah, I actually read this a little while ago, and quite a good Doctor Who book. I'd recommend that one. Next up, we have quite a rare Doctor Who book, The Also People by Ben Aranovich. Pretty curious about reading this Doctor Who book. Awesome cover on it. Really do like the cover of this book. But that's all I can really comment on the cover, really. Don't know whether it's meant to be good or not. Christmas on a Rational Planet by Lawrence Miles, with one of the most awesome covers and titles on any Doctor Who book. So yeah, I'm pretty curious about reading this book. So I probably will get around to reading that sometime soon. Return of the Living Dad, one book I actually have read, and this is absolutely fantastic. Another Doctor Who book I'm pretty curious about reviewing. This was quite light compared to other Doctor Who books, more of a fun and light-hearted Doctor Who novel. Not necessarily had lots of comedy in it, but just kind of very light in comparison to like hard science fiction like Lucifer Rising or something like that, or hard science fiction like The Romance of Crime, something like that. Very light in comparison to other Doctor Who novels. But yeah. Pretty curious about reviewing that, so I might review that one day. The Death of Art by Simon Butcher-Jones, another one I'm pretty curious about reading. So yeah, again, another quite rare Doctor Who book, so I'm very happy to have that in my collection. Next up we have the only Doctor Who book that I've actually read more than once, which is Bad Therapy. First time reading this, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Second time reading it, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Second time reading it, I would give it a 9 out of 10. But yeah, Bad Therapy, one of my favourite Doctor Who books. If you find this for a good price, I would highly recommend picking this one up. Absolutely fantastic Doctor Who book, and I'm pretty curious about reviewing this book. And that concludes my Virgin Missing Adventures and New Adventures. Now we're going to be moving on to non-fiction, short stories, and other bits and pieces. So yeah, so let's move on to that. We're going to be moving on to non-fiction and short story collections and other miscellaneous bits and bobs, such as the new Peter Capaldi hardbacks and a few other little things. I'm going to try and be a bit quicker now because I want to kind of get this collection video up, or collection videos. So let's begin with the annual, with the complete history. We have volume 1, which I haven't opened yet. I've still got it in the shrink wrapping, but I will open it eventually. Volume 17. And the complete history books are absolutely incredible Doctor Who books, and I would highly recommend you pick them up. The complete history, volume 55 and volume 76. So yes, like I said, absolutely brilliant Doctor Who books, would highly recommend them. Next up we have Decalogue 2, which I haven't read any of yet, but I'm pretty curious about reading it. Because it's basically, I think, Virgin's take on the short stories, and Virgin is normally absolutely fantastic, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do with a short story collection. Speaking of short stories, we now have the Big Finish Short Trips books, which I have 8 of, Short Trips Companions. I haven't read much of this one yet. Nor do I know too much about it. Don't know whether it's loved or hated. Doctor Who Short Trips: A Universe of Terrors. One I would highly recommend. It's got some absolutely brilliant short stories in it. From what I've read so far, absolutely fantastic. It's very interesting actually, this one, because there was even one short story where the Doctor tells Stephen about a time he and Susan, about him and Susan, which was before An Unlovely Child, in a short story, in this book, in an attempt to comfort Stephen after the events of the Daleks' master plan. Short Trips Steel Skies, again another fantastic one, well, from what I've read so far. Life Science, I haven't read any of that yet. Repercussions, another one I would recommend. Fantastic Short Trips book so far, very interesting. Short Trips 2040. I think I've only read one story out of this so far, which was the first one. And there goes my phone. Yeah, I've only read one story out of this so far, and it was a kind of a nuclear fallout story, which was very interesting to read, and it even had the kind of surprise return of a Virgin New Adventure character, which is interesting. Seven Deadly Sins, I haven't read much of this one yet, pretty good so far though. And Short Trips A Day in the Life, I haven't read any of that one yet. And then here we have the Doctor Who Annual from 1965, which is a really awesome book. Absolutely really happy to have that on my collection. Okay then, moving on to lots of other kind of non-fiction and annual kind of Doctor Who books. So in no particular order, well, I guess there is a particular order, because that particular order isn't the particular order, if that makes sense. We have some vintage Doctor Who annuals. 1978, 1979, 19 something, I really don't know what this one is, 1981 actually. So yeah, it even has this little thing stuck into it, which I don't think was supposed to be there originally, but it's got all of these episode names. So yeah, here's run. The annual 1983 by the looks of it. The 1985 annual, the 2015 annual, the 2011 annual, the 2009 annual, the 2013 annual, the 2012 annual, the 2011 annual again, the 2010 annual, the 2010 annual again, the 29 annual again, the 28 annual, the 2007 annual, and lastly the 2006 annual. God, that's a lot of annuals. Next up we have the Visual Dictionary, which I haven't looked at in quite a while, but I remember it being really good. Just all sorts of new series stuff. Pretty old book though. A history in the universe in 100 objects, which I found for £7 in British Art Foundation, which I'm tempted to say that's a bit of a bargain. A little bit on the pricey side, but I would say it was a good price for this book. Got some really fascinating kind of concept artwork, such as the pecking homunculus and the murderer of Roger Ackroyd, which I think was the book that Agatha Christie was writing in the Unicorn and the Wasp. The Innards of a Yeti, which is completely badass. Ironside and all sorts of other things. Emperor Dalek, and by far one of my my 3 or 2 pages, my 3 or 2 favourite pages out of any Doctor Who non-fiction book. Oh my god, look at it all! Oh, so much Dalek's master plan! Yes! Oh, it's beautiful! Yeah! Anyways, next up we have the Inside Story, which I haven't looked at much of yet, but I found it for only £3.50, which was a really good deal. Then we have the Encyclopedia by Gary Russell, which was given to me by my brother because he was clearing out some books he didn't want, and he didn't want this one, so I got that off of him, which is nice. Haven't looked at it much yet. The Ultimate Monster Guide. So yeah, I haven't looked at that one much yet, but I remember being pretty. I haven't looked at this one in quite a while, but I remember it being pretty good. Next up we have Oblivion, which I found for a bargain price of £10 £10 at Belfast Film and Comic Con last year, and I remember it. I've read a little bit of this so far, and I do remember it being pretty good. I think I remember reading this one, Ophidius, Part 1, quite a while ago. It has actually got lots of callbacks to previous Dalek stories. So look here, you've got the final end from Evil of the Daleks, and here you've got all sorts of other things from old Dalek stories and stuff. So, which is really nice. I think there might be a little bit more, but I am not sure. And there goes my saying. Yeah, it has lots of callbacks to old Dalek stories, which is really nice, and haven't read much of it yet though. I think I might actually need to kind of pick up the previous 2 volumes, just so I can get this book a little bit, so I can just kind of get what's going on in this book a little bit more, like the character relations the Doctor has with his onions. But anyways, we have next up we have Monsters and Villains, one of my favourite Doctor Who books from my childhood. Absolutely fantastic Doctor Who book. Oh my god! Anyways, absolutely fantastic Doctor Who book. I would highly recommend that one if you were to find it anywhere for a good price. The 50 Years The Essential Guide. So yeah, really good book, was given to me by my good friend on my birthday in 2013. Then we have The Vault, which is a fan favourite Doctor Who book, and this might be actually one I'm going to do a little showcase review of, and it's absolutely fantastic, this book. I really do like it a lot. It's absolutely brilliant. Has lots and lots of nice little pictures and stuff in it, which is really good, and all that kind of snazzy stuff in it. So yeah, Next up we have Doctor Who: The Secret Lives of Monsters by Justin Richards. Again, another really good Doctor Who book. I wouldn't say this book might be for everybody because it's a very well made book, but it's kind of a bit childish in terms of what it's actually aimed to be at. So yeah. But anyways, there is that. Next up we have The Time Traveller's Guide by Peter Haining. Again, another fantastic Doctor Who book. Really do like this one. Picked this up for £8 in a second-hand bookshop named Bookends, which was a pretty good deal. Looks like they're going to be enjoying Master Plan as well soon, possibly. Just hope for them it wasn't anything else horrible. Anyways, the Storybook 2010, 2009, 2008, 2007. So yeah, I haven't looked at these much yet. I've just found most of them charity shops. Then we have a annual which I completely forgot about and didn't know where it was, and that's the official 50th anniversary annual. And it appears Matt Smith is giving me a little stare down saying, "Oh, why did you forget this awesome annual?" or something like that. But yeah, there's most of my non-fiction Doctor Who books. Now we're moving on to other little bits and pieces before we conclude Torchwood books, which I'm just going to glaze over because I'm not the biggest fan of Torchwood. All of these I found in charity shops, so I got them for really good prices. Another Life, Trace Memory, Pack Animals, Sky Point, Almost Perfect, The Undertaker's Gift, and Consequences. So yeah, I'm not going to be going over those in any detail because I'm not the biggest fan of Torchwood, and not sure if anybody watching this video really is a Torchwood fan. Well, I bet the majority of people watching this video aren't the biggest fans of Torchwood like me. But yeah, now we've got a few other little hardback new series books. The King's Dragon, which I don't know a terrible lot about. So yeah, I just found it for 50p in a charity shop, along with that System Wipe single book, which I showed you earlier. The Forgotten Army, which I don't know too much about again. Apparently it's meant to be pretty good though, quite a fun novel. Nuclear Time, which again I don't know too much about. Then we have my large copy of the Sontaran Games, which I showed you earlier. The Quilting Storm, which I've read half of, and I haven't really gotten anywhere after that, so I think I've kind of stopped reading that. But yeah, decent story so far. The Monsters Inside, the Peacemaker hardback, which I talked about earlier, the Resurrection Casket, and the final book in this video, The Feast of the Drowned hardback.
Back here. Welcome to my Doctor Who book collection. Yeah, this is going to be a bit messy because I've got lots up here and quite a few down here, but this is pretty much all my Doctor Who books that I currently have. So yeah, before we get into hello everybody, this is Pitchfield back here. Welcome back to another video. Today in this video I'm going to be showcasing showcasing my Doctor Who book collection. So yeah. Okay, and so without further ado, let's begin. Hello everybody, it's Pitchfield back here, and welcome back to a Doctor Who book collection update. Oh yeah, it's time. It's time. Oh yeah. So without further ado, let us begin this collection update. Okay, starting off on November 26th. So that's what it's going. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you like the amount of detail that I went over the books in. Sorry I didn't go too much in detail in the books at the end. Can you see this whole back to the books? I just want to get the video up, and I'm not sure how many people would be interested in those things, but I think those are more interested in the classic series of books, or the majority of watching this video and the previous two videos. So yeah, and that's what I concludes my Walkthrough Book Collection update for November 2015. Like and subscribe. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Black.